The Flight of Dragons. If I could be honest here, I know very little about this movie. From time to time, it'll pop up at a few places on the internet, but I never really took the time to check what this movie is all about until just recently for this review. Interestingly enough, from what I've discovered through some Google searches, this was made by Rankin Bass, and it was released during the early 80s, 1982 to be precise. This was the period in the company's history where they decided to shift their focus from stop-motion Christmas specials to hand-drawn fantasy films like The Hobbit, The Return of the King, The Last Unicorn, and this one. One more thing I want to add about this is that this review is a Patreon request given to me by John Bilgatai, so I just want to give him a special shout out. As for The Flight of Dragons, will this movie really make us soar into the skies, or is this the kind of flight where you need a barf bag? Let's find out. The story. There's no denying that the movie has an idea that it wants to present along with a world around it. The entire concept of the movie revolves around the relationship between magic and science, in a period where man is taking more the side of science and logic, leaving the other to diminish. In the world of magic, filled with mythical creatures like dragons and ogres that's far separated from our world, 4 wizards are in charge of different elements to keep the world in balance. From all these ideas, it has definitely succeeded in developing an entire world in itself. It has an entire history and function while also having inhabitants that have their own backstory and their own unique interpretation of the type of creature they are. However, as great as it sounds, there is one major problem in the story. There is none. The movie is so focused on bringing the world of the novel The Dragon and the George to life with the theories of Peter Dickinson's book of the same name that it completely forgot to implement a plot. Instead, there's just the goal of get Amadon's crown. The rest of the film is filled with backstories of the world and characters, theories on what the mythical creatures can do, and really bad out-of-place comedy.
Here comes Alabama with a banjo and mighty plucka 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 plucka. I am ruined.
Don't get me wrong though, the film also features some nice action scenes, but there's no big development that makes the journey interesting to watch. It's just reach the goal while avoiding these obstacles, so it does suffer from a bit of predictability. Even in the idea of science versus magic, the movie doesn't really mention much of science. From what the movie is showing, there's about 70% magic and 30% on the other. The ideas and concepts of the story are definitely there to create something unique. It's just that it has a problem of executing them into an animated feature. The animation. Okay, bear in mind about 2 things in the animation. 1, this is a direct-to-video feature, and 2, this is a movie made by Rankin Bass. They are very well known for several things, but animation quality is not one of them, and that's probably the biggest issue. The quality in the character animation looks very cheap and limited. Sure, whenever they fully move, it feels pretty fluent, but in the majority of the time, only a selected few body parts will be able to move while the rest just stay static. That, and there are times when it would feel a bit unfinished. Like, there are some bits where it feels less fluent than others, and sometimes the animators will forget to do stuff altogether.
Well, don't tell anybody what I just confessed. There it is.
Another bit of issue I have is with the backgrounds and the environments around the characters. I know I said that the world this movie is set in is really interesting, but I never said that it ever looked interesting. For the most part, this magical land just consists of plain fields, forests, and deserts. That's it. Okay, I know that I am a bit harsh on it. I mean, is there anything good to say in the animation? Well, yes. That would be in the character design. In a sense, it really is admirable that they could put in so much detail into the characters. Sure, they may look like generic dragons and wizards at first, but the more you look at them, and when you look at more of them, they have this unique look that you couldn't find anywhere else. Other good noteworthy moments in the animation are the designs of the wizards' castles, and some of the action scenes do give the film a bit of intensity. It's understandable that this isn't the best animation you can find, but it is still interesting to look at. The characters. There is a rather unusual case when it comes to the characters. They can talk all day about their backstory and how they come to be, but they don't have a character of their own. The backstories do make the characters interesting and can grab the audience's attention about them, but they have very little personality that fails to retain that attention. If the characters need a description, it'll just say like, Carolinus is an old wizard that's losing his touch, Gorbash is a goofy dragon, Smeargle is the mentor, Sir Orin is the knight, Melisande is the princess, and the list goes on. Also, I have to note that some of the acting here is pretty bad. I'm not saying that the actors suck in general, it's just that whoever played Carolinus and Gorbash didn't even try here. However, there are two exceptions here. Well, sort of. The main character, Peter, is the science man who is fascinated by dragons that's in charge of getting Amadon's crown and sometimes puts in the science factor into the magic world, like how dragons scientifically work. I guess he's supposed to be the one that the audience could relate to since he is from the 20th century, but outside of what I mentioned, he doesn't really have a personality of his own. And then there's Amadon, the Red Wizard and the villain of the film. Oddly enough, he's kind of the opposite of this movie. In concept, he's the generic evil wizard that does evil things. But in execution, he does pay off as a pretty good and intimidating evil villain. This was mostly thanks to James Earl Jones' great performance.
Perhaps they can handle ogres and worms. But see how they fare with the evil arts of Amadon.
However, there is one big plot hole that really does bother me relating to this guy. I know very well about antiquity and the balance of good and evil, but why bring this guy to your meetings when you know he's going to screw crap up the moment you ask to find a solution to your problems? It's not like he's going to listen to you guys or ask for your approval. He's just going to do his stuff his way, whether you like it or not. But then again, the movie did state that magic and logic are two completely separate things.
It is because man is choosing logic over magic.
But why?
Because logic is so logical.
The thing with the characters is that they were interesting then, but they're not interesting now. The Flight of Dragons has the ideas that would make a great fantasy film, from the concepts of the world and the creatures that live in it, to the backstory of the characters, to the movie's overall design. However, it didn't execute it well enough as an animated feature, resulting in a story that has no plot, limited animation, and characters that aren't as interesting as they sound. I'd probably only recommend this to those that are really into the classic fantasy stories, like the ones that have wizards, knights, dragons, and all that kind of stuff. It can definitely spark the imagination with its ideology of magic. While I was watching this film, I had this realization about the movie's structure. I know this isn't the case since this was released in 1982, but hear me out. With the way it tells its story, it sounds like it's meant to be a video game. Think about it. You're brought into this magical world to explore around and told to do this one goal. While on your quest, you find some special weapons, gain new allies with an interesting background for your team, and you face a lot of obstacles in the form of small enemies and big bosses. There isn't a lot of development in the story or characters because it's so focused on the quest, or in another term, the gameplay. Seriously, it's all mapped out in order to make a pretty cool game. Let's just hope that if someone ever does make a game out of this, it'll be better executed than the movie. Hey guys, this is AniMat. Once again, I would like to thank John for his amazing support on Patreon, which allowed him to get this review request. And as for my video game idea, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of people that'll come up to me in the comments section and say, oh, well, this kind of game already exists. It's called Final Fantasy or Dragon Warrior or Elder Scrolls or something like that. Yes, 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 yes. I know that kind of game already exists. It's just an idea that I had that something that's based a lot more on the Flight of Dragons, it would make an interesting game. But I'm not saying that this game will happen, it's just some kind of idea that I had brewing in my head. But anyways, now that the Flight of Dragons is done, it's now time that we go move on to another Patreon request! Oh my god, I know that a lot of people are annoyed by this, but I might as well put this picture in the animation hat at this rate. But anyways, I don't know what it is. I guess a lot of people really do want to support me, I guess. I don't know what it is, but moving along, this one in particular actually comes from Simon Howells. And if you guys would like to be like John and Simon, and you guys want to come and support my work, and you want to get some awesome rewards on the side, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/animat. Or, if you guys would like to still suggest an animated film you would like me to review and I would put in the animation hat, then write me an email at animatsreviews@gmail.com. Now, with all that said, what is it that Simon suggests me? Well, this one actually is very interesting, because out of all the animated features out there, this is the only one to feature Robert Downey Jr.